There's truly never been a time where Vespiquen has done anything in competitive Pokemon. Until today. Maybe. So this thing's a mon that's clearly built to be bulky when you look at its stats. Base 102 in both defenses really isn't that bad until you consider it has one of the worst defensive typings in bug flying. So instead, my plan's gonna be to get that little baby base 80 attack and slow speed to shine somehow. First of all, I'm gonna set up a Psychic Terrain, and then when Vespiquen switches in, it can pop a Psychic Seed, boosting its special defense by 1 stage, but this also helps out with a little something I'll get to in a minute. Using its nice bulk, it can buy itself a turn to go for an agility, doubling its speed. This makes it pretty damn quick, and with the jolly nature and max speed, we're now faster than a maxed out Jolteon. The kicker's gonna be if we get into a situation where we can bust out one of the craziest moves in the game, Fell Stinger. If we grab a knockout with this 50 power bug move, we get massively rewarded with a +3 to our attack. And if the stars somehow align for that, the Queen Bee is in business. We can now pull out big ol' stab 110 power acrobatics since we used up our item being the Psychic Seed, and it does way more than people are going to expect. Terra Ground can help us out defensively and allow for great coverage with Terra Blast, and today my goal is to get this ridiculous bee to pull off a miracle. Alright, look, Fell Stinger has got to be one of my favorite moves in the game. It can immediately take a horrible Pokemon like Vespiquen and honestly make it a pretty big threat. Now obviously that comes with the fact that it's nearly impossible to pull off, but it's a fun challenge and that's what we're here for. If this sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes you a second, you probably won't regret it. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so as my opponent does lead off with the Araquanid, I am fully expecting Sticky Web lead. That's just what this thing does. But the great part is, my team does not really care that much about Sticky Web in general. There's only 3 mons that I have that even touch the ground, it being Blastoise, Indeedee, and Wigglytuff. But the great part is, Wigglytuff kind of prefers it. And now, as they do set up the Sticky Web, as I can switch in Wigglytuff, that'll just immediately give it a competitive boost. And it does not plan on outspeeding anything anyway. So they set up the webs, which is perfect for me. It does allow me to get up my Stealth Rock, and at this point I'm thinking maybe they stay in and go for something like a Leech Life. Regardless, I am a Bronzong who is kind of just here to be a big ass body to set up some screens. I'm gonna go for a Reflect, and honestly any way that I can help out Vespiquen defensively to try to get a position to Fell Sting or something, that's the main plan. Now they are gonna switch into a Roaring Moon, gonna immediately get a Photosynthesis attack boost, and this fella is looking pretty scary. A little bit less scary now that I have a Reflect, but a knockoff will still knock my nuts off. So I decided to switch right into the Wigglytuff here. Honestly, Wiggly comes in on this thing pretty nicely. Behind Reflect especially, I know that I can even take an Acrobatics, and if they want to go for a Dragon Dance, that's kind of fine. So I bring in Young Marshmallow, we get caught up in this Sticky Web perfectly. Obviously I'm already slow, it does not matter. But more importantly, that gives me a competitive, immediately doubles my special attack, and we're feeling pretty damn good. So as they do go for the knockoff, I resist it, I take it pretty damn nicely, but it does get rid of my Throat Spray, which isn't really a huge deal. You know, I got a +2 anyway, so I'm feeling pretty good. I'm now just gonna go for a Hyper Voice. I'm thinking they probably swap out here just in fear of, you know, a Fairy move just destroying the thing, but they stay in and go for an Acrobatics. I take it nicely because of that Reflect, and at this point, I'm like, you know, that's fine. Wigglytuff just doing her best out here. I'm gonna go for another Hyper Voice, as they end up switching back into Araquanid. Now this thing is pretty damn specially defensive, right? It does take some Stealth Rock, which is really nice. And as I yell at it, it almost is enough to knock it out. Check that out, that's the face of death right there. So at this point, I'm just trying to get Wigglytuff to do whatever it can. And it turns out Araquanid would have outsped already, but it has a Custap Berry. It gets into Custap range, and as they click Endure, I don't know what the hell is going on. I just go ahead and I'm just continuing to mash A and just yell at some stuff, and we knock it down to 1 after the Endure. So I realized, you know, I don't know, with Endure and a Custap Berry, it leads me to believe this thing's got some type of shenanigans like an Endeavor or something like that. So I'm like, you know what, I might as well save the Wigglytuff. It still could be a potential check to that Roaring Moon. But more importantly, look, this spider put itself at 1 HP, and this is a perfect opportunity to try to get Vespiquen in and get it Fell Stinger. One way to guarantee that Fell Stinger kills something is if they're sitting at 1 HP. So as I bring in Indeedee, they do go for the Endeavor. Leaves me at 1 HP, and one thing for sure is I do not want to knock this spider out. And one way I can do that is to just knock myself out. So as I go for the Healing Wish, they're now just left with an empty battlefield, and I'm like, dude, this is perfect. I needed to get the Psychic Surge up to be able to activate my Seed, to then be able to have high power Acrobatics, obviously, but also boost my special defense in the process. And it's game time, baby. I am fully invested in the Vespiquen, and if there's a time for this thing to pop off, it is absolutely now. So On touching the grape juice, we get ourselves our psychic seed, boost our special defense, and I will be faster than the arachnid here, but I know that they're probably just going to click the endeavor, and honestly, getting left at 1 HP would not really be the worst thing in the world. One thing for sure is I need to get an agility off, and that's going to allow me to outspeed everything. I doubled my speed. They do click the endeavor. Reflect wears away. I'm now sitting at 1 HP and a dream. I can now go for a Fell Stinger and knock this thing out and get +3 to my attack. But they switch, and that has got to be the worst feeling ever. I set everything up perfectly to the point where I had a nice little alley-oop. All I had to do was slam it in, but nope, they switched. So look, as they bring in Belly Bolts, I will not be giving up on the dream. Honestly, Belly Bolt puts me in a spot where I'm like, dude, surely they click an electric attack here, right? I can now go ahead and pull out the Terra Ground. What that's going to do is, first of all, allow me to Terra Blast it without any boosts. Vespiquen can't really Terra Blast its way out of a wet paper bag, but we're going to try anyway, and I've gotten this far, so I go ahead, I put the damn earth on my dome, and I'm going to Terra Blast it just for some damage, see how much we can do. And moral of the story is, at this point, Vespiquen's just working with a dream. So I Terra Blast it. Look at this. I end up getting a critical hit that knocks it down to like 10 HP. Not only that, but it charges it up, and they end up clicking an electric attack. So now, check this out. Doesn't affect me. I'm still living at 1 HP, literally hanging on by a damn thread. And I'm like, bro, if they stay in here and let me Fell Stinger, it is absolutely over. And look, they stay in. I'm able to get off the Fell Stinger. Luckily, that crit puts it in range for that to knock it out. And now, just like that, boom, drastic attack raise, baby. Fell Stinger is the hardest thing to pull off, but we finally get it. I'm now at +3 attack, and things are looking pretty good for the queen. I'm not even gonna lie. So one of the main benefits of Psychic Terrain is that it blocks priority, and sitting at 1 HP, I am a sitting duck for that. And as they go Cinderace, I'm expecting maybe Sucker Punch. It would not work anyway, but I just outspeed, and an Acrobatics is able to take it out. Incredibly satisfying. And dude, this Vespiquen has hardly ever done anything ever, but let alone being on 1 HP, +2 speed, and +3 physical attack. This is absolutely Vespiquen's Super Bowl. So look, as they go into the Galarian Moltres, I don't know exactly what this thing wants to do, but I do think at +3 and a stab Acrobatics should be able to knock this thing out. Now, as they end up going for the Ghost Terra, that should not really change anything defensively versus an Acrobatics at least. And I do outspeed, of course. Acrobatics just slices his ass up, and the bee is able to do it. Down goes the Galarian Moltres, and I only see one potential option for priority that they've got left, and that is not great because as the weirdness does disappear, that leaves me a little bit vulnerable to some little priority here. Now they go into the Decidueye. That is going to be the one thing that could be, I'm thinking maybe Shadow Sneak, and they don't go for it. They must not have the Shadow Sneak. Acrobatics is able to finish it off easily. Down goes the Decidueye. And are we seeing the very first ever Vespiquen just full-on body bag? It very well could be. So now as they're down to 2 Pokemon left, it's going to be the Roaring Moon along with the Arachnid. And check this out. We are faster than a Roaring Moon. And not only that, but just for the fun of it, I'm able to go for another Fell Stinger just to flex real quick. That is going to take it out and get myself to max attack at +6. Call that the old-fashioned belly drum. And the final mon being Arachnid also is satisfying that the Stealth Rock is just going to be able to finish that thing off. So that is going to be one of the Vespiquen battles of all time. It was able to fully do it at 1 HP, which is actually kind of insane. And I did not expect that. We got it to work. My God. So as that's the end of the first battle, that's now going to bring us into the next one. And I do want to see if I can get this thing going just a little bit more because it really is fun. And I mean, like nobody expects to be swept by a Vespiquen, but it can happen with a little bit of determination and a great situation. So look, if you stuck around this far into the video, go ahead and hit that like button for me. It does help out the channel. It takes you a second to click the button. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the next game. All right, so first of all, this time I'm working with a little bit of a switch up. I'm going Grassy Terrain with Grassy Seed instead, just to see how things go. Now, my opponent leads off with the Espeon. I do go Rillaboom from the start here. I was thinking I could get myself a nice little position with a turn 1 little U-turn. I get up some Grassy Surge, and I'm not really afraid of Espeon here. Now, it turns out they just go right for the Terra Blast. They just raw dog a Terra Blast, which doesn't do much. Allows me to now U-turn, and it does not quite knock out the Espeon. I bet they probably meant to go for a Terra there with the Terra Blast, but I will absolutely take it because here's the thing. I've immediately found myself in a spot where I could get off a Fell Stinger, and that would be actually insane. So I obviously I have to go into Vespiquen here. I will not be passing up this opportunity. And as I come in, I pop a little Grassy Seed, boost my physical defense this time, which is actually less ideal versus Espeon. But I've got this thing pretty close to where I'm feeling comfortable about a Fell Stinger, and I am absolutely just going to click it before going for an agility, because I think I might be able to get up an agility after. Now, they end up pulling out the Terra Bug, and that is probably because they're just expecting some type of bug coverage, and the nearly dead Terra is crazy. But check it out, they end up now going for a Draining Kiss. I take that super nicely, because honestly, Vespiquen about bulky as hell out here, but what sucks is they get some health back, but I'm thinking maybe this still kills. Nope, it lives it with 1 HP. Absolutely got my little Bumblebee balls in a vice, and that is so annoying. I was an inch from being able to almost set this thing up. Now, realizing that they're either going to swap or just stay in here and go for damage, I'm just going to click agility. I figure, you know, why not? I almost had the setup. I figure I could just go for an agility now, and for the most part, just kind of see how things play out. So the Grassy Surge is going to put this thing just a little bit less than it was before. And I'm thinking, you know what? A Fell Stinger might just do it this time, and it does. I'm able to grab the knockout with the Fell Stinger. Down goes the Espeon. And just like that, some type of miracle, I've now got myself an agility and the drastic attack boost, +3 attack, +2 speed. And looking at what they've got, I mean, I'm probably going to need my Terra to make things happen, but there's definitely a chance that Vespiquen just got the earliest setup of all time. So as they bring in the Pyroar, they're probably thinking, this is fine, fire type versus bug. Nope, acrobatics right to the main, and that is going to be able to take care of it. Did not even need the Terra Blast ground, and I can conserve the Terra if need be. So looking at what they've got left, there is potential for a little body bag situation here, and that would actually be crazy twice in a row. So as they go Rotom, I'm worried about, you know, just a Thunderbolt. It can take an acrobatics probably, depending on how this thing is built. But if I can just pull out the Terra Ground, even if they go for an electric move, we still got some life in us. I put the Earth on my damn head, cop the fresh bowl cut, looking baller as hell. And I'm just going to click the acrobatics for the hell of it. Now check it out. It ends up grabbing a knockout. That had to have been max damage. That's going to take out the Rotom. I fully expected that thing to live. And then I would have just had to, like, you know, soak up a non-existent electric attack. And then we would have been fine. But we will absolutely take it. And now as they go Venusaur, look, there's nothing they have that can outspeed the Vespiquen. They're down to 3 Mons left. And they've already used their Terra. So you found yourself in a bad spot versus the Vespiquen, because now I can just slice the frog up. And that just destroys the guy. So look, they've got 2 Mons left. It's going to be a Palisand along with a Lucario. And while I don't know if I can grab a full-on knockout on Palisand, I honestly, especially with a defense boost, depending on what this thing's got, I guess, I can live attack. So they go into the Palisand here. It's at full HP. I'm just going to acrobatics because it's my best damage. And that just straight up knocks the thing out too. I've underestimated the Vespiquen greatly. And that is actually kind of wild. Also, in the meantime, we're just over here soaking up grass, just healing myself even further. So now his final mon is going to be the Lucario. We got a little Terra Blast ground waiting for you, buddy. It can potentially hit me with some priority if it's got it. It does not. I just outspeed, and a Terra Blast is going to be able to just put this thing in a body bag. And I've now found myself in 2 games where Vespiquen has got the stars to align somehow to make things happen. And that's got to feel pretty bad. I mean, literally, people probably from Team Preview are like, we got this. They have a Vespiquen. But nope, guess what? Vespiquen is the end of you. So that was just a ridiculous match in general. And look, we got one more bonus match here, because one thing I do want to say is most battles will absolutely not go this way when you're working with a Fell Stinger Vespiquen. And I think this is a showcase where it's definitely not going to go as easy for us, because especially looking at the team preview, Buddy's got Sun with, you know, both Walking Wake and a Raging Bolt. So, you know, things are going to get scary along with just the rest of the stuff they got. So my team is built around entirely getting Vespiquen to do something. But I'm just going to try my best. And I think this will be an interesting one. So let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so this time my opponent is going to lead off with a Torkoal. Kind of expected that. And I'm like, you know what? If you want to go Turtle, guess what, buddy? I've also got Turtle. By the way, I removed the background game audio for this one. For some reason, 1 out of every 10 videos I record, the game audio comes out really crackly and messed up. So I have no idea what the hell the deal is with that. But regardless, I'm here as a turtle. I'm a water turtle. Versus fire, so guess what I'm going to do? Just go ahead and click Surf. I think maybe they just stay in and go for Stealth Rock. Instead, however, I'm immediately met with the absolute threat that is freaking Raging Bolt. It comes in, it's able to get Photosynthesis and boost up its special attack, and Surf just, you know, does nothing. So I realize I obviously cannot really afford to stay in here and let Blastoise just take an attack. The problem also is, like, I really just do not have a lot to deal with these freaking Paradox assholes. But I figure my best bet is probably to go into Bronzong here. What I'm mainly worried about though would be a Calm Mind setup. This thing going for Calm Minds would be worst case scenario, but it turns out they give me a little gift there. They click Thunderclap for pretty much no reason at all. A Thunderbolt would have just done the job, but Bronzong comes in for free, which is really nice, and now they just go for the T-Bolt. So I am specially defensive Bronzong, so I'm able to take it decently, but the problem becomes I can't really threaten this thing offensively, and I just need to get up a light screen here to give myself just that little bit more extra life to hopefully be able to take something against this stuff. So I go for the light screen there. At this point, I could probably take one more T-Bolt behind the light screen, so I'm like, you know what, while I'm here, might as well just get up a Reflect. I'm kind of wasted at this point as Bronzong, so I figure I do live it with 4, which is sick. It allows me to get up a Reflect. Now I've got my dual screens up, and I am in a spot where Bronzong probably is best off used as a sack. And I need to try to take advantage of these screen turns while I've got them, because as Bronzong goes down, that is my only real switch into something like Raging Bolt. And now things are looking scary, and I gotta try to get something going. So one thing I can do is I can go in DD here, especially behind a light screen. I know I can take attacks from this thing pretty easily. I bring out young Pixar Mom Hips, and I get up that Psychic Surge, which is nice. Because now at least when Vespiquen comes in, we can try to get something going with it. And I figure I honestly kind of expected a swap here. I go for the Expanding Force over the Moonblast, or not even Moonblast, freaking Dazzling Gleam. But instead, they just stay in and go for a Draco Meteor. That's gonna, you know, it does a decent chunk, but I mean, this thing's now special attack dropped, and we've got a light screen up. So I figure if there's a time to go into Vespiquen here, it's probably now. I also think maybe potentially they go Samurott if they expect another Expanding Force. And more of the story is I'm trying to find some type of opening to get in Vespiquen. So I bring in the Quen, and they are too nervous to eat some berries because I will sting you. Now I come in, I also get my Psychic Seed to pop, so that now puts me behind a light screen. This thing has drop special attack, and I get +1 special defense. But you know, they realize that they are not going to be able to touch anything, so they do in fact swap, and they go into the Samurott here. So I found myself in a spot where I'm like, okay, this kind of feels like I might be able to set up in front of this. Again, I do still have a Reflect up, so that's going to allow me to get up in agility. The problem is without any crazy boosts, a Fell Stinger is not nearly going to do enough, especially at full health. So they go for the Ceaseless Edge. That's just what these freaking Samurotts do. Gets up a layer of spikes, but I take it pretty nicely. That's the good benefit of Vespiquen being naturally bulky, but also being behind a Reflect, is that I can take a few of them. Now, after an agility, I can Acrobatics. And the reason for that is because I can get it to range now where a Fell Stinger will knock it out. And then just like that, Vespiquen gonna be looking scary. So they go for another Ceaseless Edge. Sadly, they set up a couple layers of spikes, but now it's absolutely game time. They're probably not expecting a Fell Stinger. As they stay in, they go for a Sucker Punch. They're able to get off priority because I'm not touching the terrain there, which is unfortunate, but I live it nicely. Allows me to Fell Stinger that thing into freaking the Shadow Realm, and just like that, I've somehow gotten a spot where I'm now at +3 attack, and I have my agility up, and now's the time to see if Vespiquen can poke some holes in the team to make it a little easier. So as they end up bringing in the Torkoal, I realized that, you know what, at +3 physical attack, you know, this thing's pretty damn bulky, but I should be able to knock this thing out. I'm thinking a Terra Blast, it should be able to do it, and being able to go for that little Terra Ground is going to put me in a spot where then I'm great against the Raging Bolt, and it can't even go for any priority because of the freaking terrain. So I'm like, this is fine. I have to go for the Terra here. As they get their sun up, it's going to be the last sun they are able to set up, because check this out, +3 Terra Blast is going to be able to take care of the Torkoal, which is pretty damn satisfying to see. Vespiquen killing things that it should have absolutely no business knocking out is absolutely what we're out here doing it for. So Vespiquen is now on top of the world. We're feeling good, but as they bring in Walking Wake, I'm thinking one thing that could ruin this would be a Photosynthesis speed boost. It does get the Proto up, and it turns out to be speed. Dude, if a special attack boost came through there, Vespiquen almost sweeps their entire squad. But now that it has that speed boost, sadly for me, it's able to outspeed with a Hydro Steam. I really, truly do not have a whole lot to switch into this thing, and that's going to take care of the Quen. So that is a very more realistic situation where even when Vespiquen can get something going, there's generally something that'll ruin its day. So down goes the Quen. I'm now down to 4 Mons left, and I've got to see what my best bet is going to be versus the Walking Wake. Now, as I decide to go into the Alolan Persian here, the reason was I thought I would be able to take 1 attack from it. Now, it's going to be faster than me because of that Proto Boost, and then I realized I have made a grave mistake. I cannot afford to lose this Persian. That is an absolute misplay on the switch in there. I really should have gone Blastoise from the start, man. I messed that one up, and I was like, if I let this thing go down to a Hydro Steam, I really need that Persian. So I decide now to just go into the Blastoise, little bit of a mess up there. Once a game, I will probably do just about one stupid thing, and that's gonna be it. So as Blastoise comes in after some leftovers, it looks like I can take another Hydro Steam, but it's not looking great. Honestly, this Walking Wake is the biggest problem for my team. And I figure I really just could use some chip on the thing. The good news is, though, as long as it's not booster energy, it is not going to be able to get back up that photosynthesis once the sun goes away. So as I go for the Ice Beam here just for some chip, they end up swapping into the Raging Bolt. Comes in, gets its Proto Boost, it's going to be special attack, but that's fine. I Ice Beam just straight out of my forehead, doesn't even use the cannons, and I'm almost able to knock it out, but not quite, which is unfortunate. So the problem at this point is, now that I don't have Bronzong, I have truly nothing that wants to swap in here. So as I end up staying in, Thunderclap right to the buddy thunderclaps my cheeks, and down goes the Stoise. I was really kind of back against the wall there, where Blastoise would have been nice to conserve, but then again, it's like nothing else switches in there and is able to take an attack. So it's kind of a bad spot versus two of the scariest mons in the metagame being Raging Bolt and Walking Wake in the sun. It's like, what are you gonna do, you know? Well, at least at this point, since I sacked the Stoise, I can now go into the Alolan Persian. I'm thinking surely a Foul Play knocks this thing out. It does not, however, and it lives it with 1 HP. Just throw me a damn bone. A knockout there would have been so satisfying. But then as they go for an Electro Web, I am actually able to live that, and that's going to activate my red card, forcing the thing out. So now it's at like 1 HP, but the great part is the Stealth Rock is up. So now Raging Bolt can no longer come back in. So I'm like, hell yeah, that's perfect. I've basically taken care of the Raging Bolt. Now, the red card is going to draw in the Talonflame, and sadly, the Talonflame is going to go for the Defog. Right after it takes half from the Stealth Rock, it just blows him right away. And that is unfortunate, because as I end up going for the parting shot here, I'm going to dampen this thing's offenses just a bit and also save the Persian for later. This is my fastest threat here, and I figure if I can conserve the Persian, maybe I can get something going. The main problem is just the fact that they have that Walking Wake in the back. And it's like, what am I going to do for that Walking Wake? I have absolutely no idea, but I'm going to see if I can try to work around it the best I possibly can. So I figured, look, you want to go into Firebird? I'm going to bring in Firebird, and I'm just going to go right into Moltres here. And I'm thinking surely this Talonflame switches out here. I'm thinking maybe they go into the Wake. I can then U-turn pivot and then bring in Persian and try to do something. But nope, they just go for the Tailwind, which is unfortunate because now I just U-turn the thing 4 times, resists it, and that is not really ideal. So they get up the Tailwind. I saved the Moltres for later at least. It could be useful barring the freaking Walking Wake, but now as I'm forced to go into something, I gotta bring in Croissant. Look, I'm fighting for my damn life out here to somehow bring this game back against some scary stuff. So I get up my Psychic Surge, gonna boost up my little expanding forces, and the sun does go away, however, so that feels pretty nice. Now, as they go for the Flare Blitz, I was thinking after a parting shot, I might be able to live one. Nope, it is gonna be able to outspeed and grab a knockout, and that is unfortunate because indeed he would have been really great to conserve there, but you know, I mean, what are you gonna do? So at this point, I've got 2 mons left. I've got a full health Moltres, I have a nearly dead Persian, and we're just out here scrapping, doing the best we can. Now, as Moltres can definitely take attacks all day long from anything physical, they just stay in, they go for a Brave Bird. It's not gonna do much. I'm able to live it and then burn his ass to a crisp with a flamethrower. So now, I've got him down to 3 mons left, right? There is still potentially a chance, but still, that Walking Wake just existing is really bad news. So first of all, though, they go Raging Bolt. And here's the thing, they're probably going to Thunderclap. Seeing how they've played earlier, they want to click Thunderclap on stuff. So expecting that, I am going to end up going for the Will-O-Wisp. And it turns out, though, they're just going to pull out the Terra. They go for the 1 HP Terra, which is crazy. They want to go Terra Electric just to ensure like that they have enough damage with an electric move to knock out the Moltres. But I'm like, dude, if you click Thunderclap here, you're roasted. They do go for the electric type ass Sucker Punch. It is going to fail because I go for the Will-O-Wisp, and I'm like, oh my god, it actually connected. So that is now going to be able to take care of the Raging Bolt after the burn does its thing. And honestly, that was a pretty damn satisfying turn. Not even going to lie. Now, while that feels all good and well, there is still obviously the looming Walking Wake in the back, which I have literally nothing to do to. While it doesn't have its photosynthesis boost, at least, that is helpful. But, I mean, the Tailwind goes away, and still, though, I mean, Wake is... What am I going to do to the Walking Wake, you may ask? I don't know. What I do know, though, is that I've somehow gotten myself into a 2v2 matchup here against a very uphill fight. Now, they do go for the Hydro Steam. Even without this Sun boost, it is going to be able to knock out the Moltres, sadly. But even then, Moltres had nothing to click against that thing anyway, as I don't have any other coverage other than like flamethrowers. So sadly, as my final mon is going to be the Alolan Persian, I can outspeed the thing. The problem though is that I only can really just click foul play, and as a special attacker, it's definitely not going to be enough. I go for the foul play anyway, and yeah, it basically heals the thing. So sadly, they're going to be able to fire off one more Hydro Steam, and that is going to be able to finish it off for them. So that was still a really interesting game where Vespiquen did still get a little bit of something going. But, you know, I definitely had some misplays that I could have for sure played that better. But sometimes that's just the way it goes. Still, regardless, a really fun match. And we're just over here messing around. So thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate the support. And look, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.